Okay, so let's move on to other stories now. The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the circumstances leading to the mass failure of candidates in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination conducted by the Joint Admission and Matriculations Board, JAMB, recently. This followed the adoption of a motion on matters of urgent public importance moved by Adewale Adebayo at the plenary. The House also called for the establishment of at least one computer-based testing center in each of the 774 local government areas of the country for the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. Now, last month, the Senate considered a similar resolution saying there will be budgetary provisions in the 2026 fiscal year for the establishment of CBT centers across the 774 local government areas of the country. To discuss this, we are joined by a public affairs analyst, Kenneth Ikenwa. Mr. Ikenwa, thank you so much for coming up to talk about this on the news.
Thanks for having me on.
So, should JAMB be scrapped, with some people saying it has overstayed its relevance?
Well, I'm a product of JAMB, and I know people that are much older than me are also products of JAMB. I think it's a concerted effort to see to it that there is a unified system for Nigerian students who have school certificates to get into university to study for their first degrees. And so if you ask me, considering the dynamics of our complexity as a people, I would say a capital no. JAMB should not be scrapped. But JAMB could be restructured, JAMB could be unbundled, JAMB could be made to look at benchmarks globally and use those benchmarks to now reinvent itself to ensure that we have quality students that go into universities for matriculation and quality students that actually graduate from the different, almost over 300 tertiary institutions that we have in Nigeria. JAMB has come to stay and JAMB should continue to stay. But there is a room for evolution and there is a room for more continuous improvement in the operations of JAMB and in the targets of JAMB going forward.
Okay, well, you're privy to the video of the JAMB registrar blaming the terrible results on a system glitch. Is that excuse tenable, or should he be tendering his resignation?
Well, I think for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we're having what I will call administrative humility, the ability to actually see administrators come to terms with the fact that an error has been made and take full responsibility for that. But we are also evolving in our social structure and political culture, and that will not, at this point in time, see to it that administrators actually tender resignations for glitches like this, for problems like this, for complexities like this, which they take full responsibility for. So the first thing we should actually appreciate is the fact that the CEO and registrar was able to come out and not sweep this problem under the carpet and hinder the destinies of over 380,000 Nigerians who have suffered or who are a victim of this technological and technical glitch. I would still say that it's commendable. This is the first time that we're seeing administrative humility, like I said, replacing what has become entrenched in our culture, in our society, which I'll call the character deficit. So for the fact that the JAMB management was able to come out to actually apologize to Nigerians, to actually identify where the problem came from, and to actually address it going forward, it is a good pointer in the direction of our evolution in terms of public administration. And I think that such behavior should be rewarded, and whatever was responsible for this technical glitch should be further investigated. And I would suggest that to avoid this, mock examinations, mock test running of the entire system across the nook and crannies of the Federation should be carried out so that we do not have this kind of collective embarrassment and the collateral damage that has come with it.
But do you think,
it is win-win, for JAMB.
Kenneth, do you think that that show of administrative humility would have come to be if people had not, if there had not been an outcry, or people had come out to talk about it? Because at some point, some people were really willing to take JAMB to court before the Minister of Education came out to say that, see, the system is failure-proof, it is malpractice-proof, and that is why we saw that massive failure in the examination results.
Well, there have been different theories that have been propounded, that have been expanded to actually describe, explain, predict why this rate of mass failure actually did occur. And now we are seeing to it that at least out of the large number of students that actually did fail, a good number, a significant number, 380,000 of them actually became victims of this technological glitch. Now, I wouldn't want to join arguments, whether for or whether against, with respect to if the outcry was what actually led, to people actually coming out, to the administrators actually coming out to admit the errors. I would just think that it's a learning curve experience for both the Nigerian publics and for the Nigerian administrators. And not just for JAMB, not just for administration at the educational sector, but in all sectors of the economy, in all sectors of public administration. We saw something like this happen a little under 2 years ago with the Nigerian Identity Management Card or Control Board, or I think it's called the NIMC, where there was a technical glitch and people had access and people were able to buy and purchase their private data, breaching their personal security online. So we are a growing nation. We are technologically leapfrogging. We are making advances in technology, and issues like this will just make us sit tight, borrow better technological capital from more advanced nations, put our acts together and ensure that there's proper privacy, there's proper security, there's proper cyber security, and glitches like this do not embarrass millions and millions and hundreds of Nigerians of people and embarrass collectively the Nigerian nation going forward.
So even as we look at how to improve technological might in these areas, now let's juxtapose what happened with JAMB with the Imesoma Ejekime's case. That's the 19-year-old student from Anambra State accused of forging her results after claiming to have scored 362 in the UTME. Now, what does that tell you? Because she was not given the opportunity to come and apologize and given the opportunity to rewrite and retrace the steps. But then we see a JAMB registrar was come out to say, I'm sorry, give me a second chance. Is it balanced?
Okay, we cannot completely say that the young lady, Menesoma, I hope I did pronounce her name properly, was not given the opportunity to apologize. And we are looking at that from the macro point of view. Issues of that nature, even though we say they are singular and unitary, should be better considered from the macro point of view. And what do I mean by that? We should look at it from the larger societal point of view. What in the first place was the motivation? What in the first place was the trigger? What in the first place was a major factor that led to the falsification of that result, or that led to that action, and that led to the celebration of that action, or the admittance, the accommodation of that action on the part of the larger public and on the part of the individual involved? Simply put, we have gotten to a stage in our country where we have become paper certified, we have become paper celebrated. We celebrate more of papers, we celebrate more of degrees rather than pedigree. And that brings us back to the issue and that which borders on, character deficit versus humility versus the focus on integrity and purpose-driven administrative practices. The single factor that explains why the Menosoma case was prevalent in Nigeria and will continue to be prevalent across different sectors is that we have placed too much emphasis on paper certifications, on degree certifications, rather than focusing on the pedigree of individuals that actually peddle these degrees and peddle these papers. So we must have a paradigm shift. Okay, when you graduate from university, a proper Nigerian university, you find written in your certificate found worthy in character and learning. So we have a society that wants to pay all emphasis on the learning aspect, on your 2-1, on your first class, on your doctorate degree, whilst not paying the major aspect to the learning, the character, the character side of the pendulum that comes with education. So that paradigm shift should be what we should be emphasizing now. Whether we want to say it openly or whether we want to say it in secret, the fact remains that we have entrenched examination malpractice in our system. We have parents that pay for this. We have parents that encourage this. We have schools that even encourage this. These are issues that need to be brought to the front burner, that we should start addressing head on, so that we can have more competitive graduates. We can have a more globally competitive educational system across all levels, and we can prepare ourselves for the technological shifts and advancements that we should have attained even before now.
All right, thank you so much, Kenneth Ikenwa, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news.
Always my pleasure.